Ladies and gentlemen, this RedGamingTech.com video, let's discuss microtransactions, shall we? So the whole mess that it is Assassin's Creed Unity has really pushed this to the forefront of my mind. I did mention in my kind of thoughts so far of AC Unity, which I put up on November the 14th, that I actually deliberately avoided talking about microtransactions because I'd probably get too pissed off and go really off the rails of the video. Not to mention I wanted to do a bit more research regarding the whole microtransaction situation with Ubisoft's Assassin's Creed Unity as well as other titles besides. Now I'm probably going to get pretty ranty and pretty angry over the microtransaction situation. Because, quite frankly, I think it's taking the piss at this point. There's numerous reasons I've got against the model, and no, don't get me wrong, in a free-to-play game, it's not so much of a big deal to me. So, for example, in titles like Hearthstone, which are free-to-play, or even free-to-play done right, in my personal opinion, which of course would be Team Fortress 2, which is very generous actually in terms of the content, and you know, the money you're spending really is for like hats and aesthetics, which in my opinion is quite damn reasonable. I have no issues with that at all. I'm not pointing at the boogeyman of Valve and saying, hey, you have no rights to monetize your game at all, because that's frankly ludicrous. They are putting hard work in to maintain the servers and putting hard work in to actually create new maps or whatever they are doing. But when it comes to microtransactions and full retail price releases, it's quite simply put taking the piss. Now I'm going to be using British prices simply because I'm more familiar with the currency and it's just easier for me to do the research. However, for those of you who are living in, say, Australia or Canada or America or Japan or wherever you happen to be, and I bid you welcome, well, I'm sure you can probably convert it to your own currency anyway. So, let's begin, shall we? In AC Unity, there are what is known as Helix credits. Now, these cost a differing amount depending, or you basically can get packs of them, and the amount of Helix credits is directly proportional to how much money you spend. Now, Amata went through this in more detail in her video, but suffice to say it ranges from 500 Helix credits, which is $3.99, these are all GBP prices, Great British Pounds, all the way up to a frankly eye-watering, piss-taking number that is 65 Great British Pounds for 25 credits. Now, just to put this into perspective, the title Assassin's Creed on both systems cost me about £37. I actually bought the game to cover for you guys. So in other words, this is costing, well, almost half of what, this is costing almost double what the game's worth. Okay, I'm slightly rounding up, but still, you get the general gist. Now, the reason I think this takes the piss is because you start getting weapons in Assassin's Creed. For example, there is some weapons, for example, a top-rated sword. Now, that weapon is a 5 diamond rating. In other words, it's pretty much top of the level equipment. So you can get it by spending 125,000 francs, which is doable. It's not like you can't get it. If you kill enough people, you loot enough cash, so on and so forth, you can start getting it. But just to give you an idea, I'm up to, on one of my playthroughs, I'm up to, I think almost, I'm actually up to the 4th chapter, and I've probably accumulated maybe about 5,000 to 7,000 francs. Now, admittedly, I have not done all the side quests, but still, it gives you an idea of how much cash you are actually spending. Or, you can buy it for 1,000 Helix credits. So, roughly speaking, you're looking to spend about £8, which, quite frankly, takes the piss. Additionally, you could start buying things such as boosts. So boosts are pretty obvious. What they will do is, well, increase the stat of your character. So in other words, you'll become less detectable and so on. Now it's very easy just to point the finger at Assassin's Creed Unity and basically make them today's demon. And believe me, I personally think you should throw a lot of shit over at Ubisoft because frankly, the fact that the game is a broken mess and still they are putting this into their game pretty much tells you wonders. However, I will also point to Electronic Arts and some other developers as well. FIFA, which is a game I don't really know that well. I don't really even support British football, to be honest. But one of my friends does. He plays the game quite religiously. Now, he is not a believer in microtransactions, so he doesn't cough up. But he does have friends, several on his Xbox Live friends list, as well as people he knows, and they have, and he's personally witnessed this, seen them pay hundreds for their ultimate team. Now, once again, this is a situation where you can unlock some stuff legitimately, but the fact of the matter is, it does allow you to not do that. And considering that FIFA is ultimately a multiplayer game, it starts to get to the point where it becomes a little unfair, at least in my personal opinion. And I'm sure many of you will also remember the ridiculous mess that was Dragon Age when it actually had, the vendor to actually buy DLC in your camp. And of course, let's not even beat around the bush and point to probably one of the most prolific examples of this. Drum roll, please. That's right, Dead Space 3, and that got absolutely criticised to hell. In fact, I would actually go as far as to say it did affect Dead Space 3's sales. So, one of the leading defenses for we could go into much more details of this. Even World of Warcraft, for example, with some of the mounts and stuff, I think personally are taking the piss. But let's move away from examples, because I could be here until another 20 minutes, and I'm sure you all know them anyway. One of the leading defenses is it's for convenience. You know why that pisses me off, that excuse? Because it's a load of rubbish. If we're talking a single player here, if you are looking from a standpoint of convenience, then there are cheats. Someone in my Assassin's Creed Unity video pointed out you could just type what happened to up, down, left, right, ABC, start. And funnily enough, this is exactly what I was using when I was communicating with someone else on this very specific issue. Do you remember when there was things such as Konami code? I do. I mean, Konami code, or on... one of the earliest memories that I remember on, probably actually not the earliest, but certainly one of the coolest memories I remember from my Sega Saturn was Command & Conquer on it. On Command & Conquer, you could type in a long-ass code, I can't remember what it was, but it's something like YABBA, left, blah, 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 and it would give you the orcas, which of course are the flying attack helicopters. They would now be lasers, so would basically be using obelisks of light, with orcas, and it was amazing. These little cheats that were cool. And in fact, of course, you could go ahead and do that with tons of games. There were so many games. Kiko's Flying Air Squadron on the Mega CD, there was a demo of it, and you could put in a code, and it would actually unlock all of the levels, which I'm pretty sure, considering it was a demo version, that was a bit of an oversight. So in other words, you could put in a level select cheat, skip to level 2, and then play the game as you would like to, and I'm sure that was a massive oversight, and I'm sure a couple of people probably lost their jobs. But still, there were codes that you could put in for games, and so many titles you'd pause the game, type in a code, and that would give you infinite weapons or infinite ammo, or give you an extra 2 lives or whatever was required. Remember Shinobi on the Revenge of Shinobi on the Mega Drive, where you would put your shurinkens down to a figure of 0, wait 10, 15, 20 seconds or whatever it was, and then you would get infinite shurinkens. And I always used to do it. Is it shurinkens, shurikens? I'm unsure of the pronunciation. Anyway, that's kind of beside the point. That's what you would do. That is catering to the convenience of the players, right? That is giving players the choice, like Doom. Doom, Duke Nukem, all of these games, they all used to have it, and they're all so much better for it. You would put in a code, and oh my god, now I've got God mode, now I can enjoy the game. And it would do cool things as well. For example, one of the things that I did on Duke Nukem 3D, put in the code to get tons and tons and tons and tons of pipe bombs and laser trip mines, put tons of trip mines around the first level of Duke Nukem 3D. Literally, I think I covered pretty much every single surface area with trip mines, and then detonated them and just watched the explosion, and it gave more content to the game. It kind of was like, oh, this is kind of cool. Now you don't. Now so many games, there are so few cheats, proper cheats in games. Now you look at like GameFAQs.com to see like the hints and tips for modern games, and then compare that to older games. Now you might say to yourself, well, you're looking at this from rose-tinted glasses, and I would somewhat agree, but here's the thing, I'm not really that much of a retro gamer. I do like a lot of retro games, but that's because I know they're good games. I don't really play games that I haven't played that are old, if that makes sense. So let's say there's a title and I won't go back and try a game that I haven't really played out because there's too many new ones, and I prefer modern gaming generally. But I do feel that stuff like this is just taking the piss beyond reasonable doubt. Furthermore, this brings us to season passes, which is something that I've already discussed previously. But you know what? I'm going to discuss it some more because, frankly, why not? Season passes. Season passes, season passes, season passes, season passes, and guess what? Season passes. Because that seems to be the main thing that's advertised. You buy Destiny, here's a season pass for you, bro. I don't want it. No, are you sure? Seriously, when I bought Destiny, the first thing I was asked in the store, do you want a season pass? And you know what makes it worse? When I get Call of Duty, and I put Call of Duty in Advanced Warfare, now in the menu, buy the season pass. The game is literally, I've just plonked £30, £40, £50, whatever it costs me, on this bloody title. And now you're telling me to spend more on a season pass? And what really pisses me off beyond even further belief is the fact that I don't even know the quality of the content. So it's like, okay, you're going to tell me that you're going to be selling me a season pass, but I don't even know if I like the game initially. I open up Assassin's Creed Unity on the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4, and there is a leaflet in here. That leaflet says, Assassin's Creed Unity Season Pass available now. Take your Assassin's Creed experience further, additional single-player missions, new places to explore, extra weapons, and gear. And then it gives you, like, including the Dead Pass, new single-player campaign, Assassin's Creed Unity Dead Kings, blah, blah, blah. And then it will give you other things as well, such as included in the season pass is Assassin's Creed Chronicles China, and then you've got some other bits and pieces as well, and then it gives you an overall like look of what you actually get, and then you can get that in the Xbox store. You know, I don't have a problem necessarily with DLC. I think the DLC can be pretty cool. I do think sometimes it can be on the verge of taking the piss. Like, one of those would be From the Ashes DLC with Mass Effect 3. And in fact, despite the fact that I love the storyline of Mass Effect 3, I really love the storyline of Mass Effect 3. But I tell you what puts me off of Mass Effect as a series, beyond anything else, and that's the fact that you get so much story that's held back between DLC pieces. And it's like, that wouldn't even bother me so much, but then when you get like the complete versions of Mass Effect, like the collector's editions, even those, I can't remember what it is, but it's the Mass Effect collections where you get 1, 2, 3, it's still missing some pieces of the DLC, and I still think that's just taking the piss beyond reasonable doubt. Furthermore, to continue my tirade of annoyance, as much as I like BioShock Infinite and the Burial of Sea content, I can't help but feel it was short. Like, I did a playthrough of it on the first one. I think I finished the second one, but I definitely finished the first one on RGT. And I was playing it. I'm like, oh, this is really cool. This is really cool. Oh wait, it's done. What? I just spent like £8 on this sucker, and it's done in like, it felt like 20 minutes of gameplay. Are you sure? It was fun, but it lasted less than time than what it takes to bloody, drink a can of orange juice. It was ridiculous. And that's the problem with this. They're asking you to spend money effectively on content that you don't even know the quality of. For consoles, it's bad enough because, quite frankly, consoles, the fact that now, of course, downloadable content, the PlayStation Network store, Xbox Live store, and so on, now we're there, it can really become like a slippery slope. But on the PC, it's even more of a crying shame because what it's starting to do is affect, well, user mods. Back in the day, so many PC games were easily moddable, and tools were released. Of course, there are some games that do that. Bethesda with, say, Skyrim. that is pretty moddable. Anyone would agree. And, well, frankly speaking, I would say the PC version is far and away the best way to play the game. Not necessarily just because of the controls and better graphics, although that is one of the reasons, but also because of the additional user-generated content. And they can fix stuff, or you can customize the game how you like. You don't like the map? Fine, have your own one. Build your own one if that's your kind of thing. Oh, you don't like your follower? Get a new one. You don't like the carry limit? Change it. You don't like how lockpick works? Change it. You can do anything you like, and it's really cool, and I think that's the experience that PC gamers are used to, not this microtransaction ridden type of thing. And that's actually increasing the price of games. And that actually could get me onto another point, which I won't actually rant on because that'll be another thing. And that's the subtle and slow increasing of pricing on the PC games. One of the reasons, of course, PC games have been traditionally cheaper is because of the fact that we don't have to pay the licensing. Well, developers aren't paying the licensing fee to, let's say, Sony, right? Now, some of that is to do with the fact that Steam, of course, have to, cough up like a percentage of the profits to Steam. But if it's being sold through Origin, for example, or whatever, why are we still paying that? I know microtransactions are frequently discussed, and I understand it can be a little bit of a frustrating topic, because it kind of feels that we as consumers are almost powerless. But the fact of the matter is, there's nothing reasonable about being asked to pay $8 for a sword. It's a sword in a game that you should be able to unlock. And the sad fact is, back in the PlayStation 2 era, this would have been up, down, left, right, ABC. Now that's going to cost you $8. Now, as I said, I don't have any problems with DLC. As much as I just bitched about Mass Effect 3, I actually like most of the content. I would say there's the odd piece of crap DLC on Mass Effect, but generally, I would say it's fairly reasonable. However, it did also have pre-order DLC issues, and that's another problem that I could definitely rant about. Pre-order DLC, and the fact of the matter is, with pre-order DLC, it's always to the point where you feel like you're missing something. And what's worse is that oftentimes there'll be exclusive pieces of DLC for a particular retail chain. Now, I could rant about that as well, but I kind of want to focus this mostly on microtransactions at the moment. The bottom line is, a microtransaction is inherently harmful, and there are discussions at these massive expos like GDC and all of these type of things, and you can Google this in your own time. And it's basically how to change your game and monetize. How to monetize and how to extract the money from consumers. And how... The thing that worries me about this is there's going to be a breaking point for this. Because we're getting to the point where games are becoming increasingly gated in terms of content. The fact is, we as consumers are going to have a limit, and I think these massive AAA developers are kind of taking the piss. As much as I do love gaming, there are certain things at the moment which are definitely becoming problems. Microtransactions and DLC. DLC can be really good, but it does take the piss to me when it's on disc. It leaves a bitter taste in my mouth. And yes, one can argue that it's being worked on by different teams, but it still doesn't make you feel any better that you've just spent £40 and you know that content is locked on that DVD or Blu-ray disc, but you spend like I might as well buy it. I'm really enjoying the game. I'm going to spend that £10 or whatever it's going to be, and I'm going to unlock the content or download the content, and it's like a 3 KB unlock file. That to me just takes the piss. Right? So that's one. And of course Capcom were infamous with that, with the whole Marvel vs. Capcom situation, with like Jill, for example, and various other titles as well that we could go through that I won't bother with because everyone knows them too well by now, far too well. Finally, we've got other major issues such as censorship of reviews, censorship of critique. Quite a few indie developers, not so much AAAs, are responsible for this, but you're getting situations where, you know, YouTube channels are getting copyright strikes if a game happens to have negative comments made about it, and then of course it becomes a whole situation where it then goes to, you know, they said, he said, and then it becomes just an absolute ridiculous mess. And that's just ridiculous. Sega are actually quite responsible for that. And then, of course, you happen to have one of the doozes at the moment, Warner Brothers, with the whole it's not Lord of the Rings Honest, also known as Shadows of Mordor. Now, I'm not trying to say this is a doom and gloom thing. I'm just saying, as customers, it's really, really easy to kind of fall into this trap. And I'm just saying to you, you know, just be kind of mindful of this stuff. I'm not saying never buy DLC or anything like that, because, you know, some DLC and some microtransactions are inherently, in my opinion, fair. Like, for example, I personally think that Konami's Stolen Memory on Mass Effect was a really good piece of DLC. It was fairly lengthy, it wasn't overly priced, at least in my personal opinion, and I felt to myself when I played it, you know what? I actually am glad I bought this piece of DLC. It felt like it's reasonable. But same thing with, as I said earlier, Team Fortress. However, when I look at Assassin's Creed Unity, especially with the state it was already in, and there are some that are accusing Ubisoft, naturally, of actually having the microtransactions thing not working on the first couple of days, so that reviewers can warn people. Now, I don't know how true that is, but it's certainly been accused, circling around the internet. Even Total Biscuit mentioned it in one of his videos, so who the hell knows. My point being, however, I think there is a level of piss to be taken, and I do think that certain games and certain developers are pushing over that. What do I think you should do? I wouldn't say you should not buy the game. However, I think you should strongly voice your opinion, and I would say that you shouldn't buy anything that's microtransaction ridden. Just basically demonstrate and kind of warn them and say, hey, we'll buy this one, but we're not going to buy any microtransactions, but if you keep doing it, we're going to punish you by basically not buying the next version of the game. And that's pretty much all there is to it. I mean, obviously your thing is kind of different to mine. I mean, that's my personal way of dealing with something. It's like, I'm like, okay, you know what, I'm not going to cave into this, but I'll see what happens in the next version. You know, I'll let my opinion be known, and then if the person doesn't adjust their behaviour accordingly, then, you know, I'll stop. I won't go ahead. And, of course, you know, we'll have to just see how that goes for gaming in general, really. Anyway, this has been kind of ranty and kind of off topic and kind of a bit of a weird video in general, but this is just such a fucked up topic, to be honest. I don't really know exactly where to even start on it, because, as I said earlier, it used to just be up, down, left and right, and now it's, well, you can unlock this sword for £8. That sounds pretty convenient to me. Be right back, get my wallet. Yes, quite. Anyway, I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye for now.